Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Brian Brosey. I'm a doctor of physical therapy, personal trainer, co-host of the WellPT podcast. Today I'm going to walk you through a glute strength test, primarily testing your external rotation strength. And I talked about this on episode 169 of the WellPT podcast called Hip Health, Combating Hip OA. We talked a lot about hip decompression. And we also talked a lot about the importance of some of the hip stabilizers like the glute med in our overall long-term hip health. In that episode, I talked about a variety of signs, tests, postural assessments that physical therapists or personal trainers use to kind of better understand if you possibly have this glute weakness. And we talked a lot about all the different things that this weakness can kind of contribute to or exacerbate. So I'm going to demonstrate the test. I'm going to walk through it and talk you through it after that, and then perform another round of it just so we can all be crystal clear on what's going on. But the test is performed flat on my belly. I'm testing the left leg for the sake of this video, so the one closest to you. I talked about in the podcast that figure 4 position. This is it. I'm going to try to get my body as flat as possible. But figure 4 position being the tested leg, my left leg for this purpose, is flexed and abducted off to the side. And you can see my knee is kind of right in line with my hip socket here. And again, I want to try and flatten myself out. To perform the test, I'm going to attempt to lift the whole leg off the ground. Now, I could feel a few things that I don't like. One of them being, pay extra special attention to my knee. Does my knee cave in when I try and lift my whole leg off the ground? If it does, that is probably a sign that I'm not in tune or firing or activating my external rotators appropriately, and I may have some weakness there. So you're watching for that knee to stay in line and not cave in as you go to lift up. And that'll be one of the first things you feel that is pretty difficult. Another thing I really want to look for is minimizing all the compensatory movements. For example, you may have seen I went to lift up and I rotate out kind of like this, right? I'm trying to make it easier on myself. Also, with my hands, if I'm right here, I am way more likely to kind of push and compensate than if I'm further up and it's a lot harder to push, or even internally rotated, hands flat on the ground, and I've got nothing to push off of, right? So let's say you perform the test, or you try to perform the test, which I'm going to demonstrate one more rep of it here. Going to relax, and I'm going to lift my leg off the ground. Watch my knee this time. So, you may have seen that dip down, but it just dipped down and in towards the ground, which is my external rotator weakness coming into play. Let's say that's so difficult we're unable to lift the whole leg. We can start just here, just externally rotating the leg. Again, I really want to try and minimize compensation, right? I don't want this. I want to just focus on what's happening at my hip and not let that movement transfer out to any other part of my body, like my back or anything like that. So if this part is too difficult to lift up, I can break it down into these smaller rotations. Specifically working on the external rotator strength. And I really feel that light up, so my external rotators are weak. You can also use this to test your internal rotation. That's internal rotation. Thigh rotates in. Typically this is a lot stronger. We're a lot more accustomed and internally rotated as a whole with our posture, and thus this is not very hard. This is hard. And this is the one that's super important to the longevity of my health, or my hip as a whole. So that's the hip test, guys. There's a variety of tests you can use to see the strength of the glutes. There's sideline kind of MMTs of the glute med, this type of position. Can you do 50 of those, 20 of those? When does it start to burn? right? Can you do it without compensation? Are you heading back? Are your hips staying nice and neutral? There's the Trendelenburg sign that we talked about, which you can look for in walking. A lot of different ways to assess the glutes. I love this. I just found out about this test and kind of began to use it and try it myself, and it is very difficult. Biggest things to keep in mind, you're focusing on that knee coming straight up. You don't want it to cave in. If you find that this is weak, you can immediately turn it into an exercise, right? You can use your hands to help you a little bit more if you need, or you can just do the rotation where your feet are still on the ground. You're just rotating that knee out, and you can play with the demands as far as like, do you hold it? Do you slowly let it come back to the ground? How do you perform it and play with that quality of your repetitions? And that's where we really want to focus on here, is that quality of movement and decrease those compensatory motions like my leaning off to the side. I hope this was helpful. If you're looking for more information, you can check out episode 169 of the Wellman's podcast titled Hip Health. Or if you're looking to talk with me directly, feel free to shoot me an email or go to my website, B.WellPTFloridafL.com, and you can sign up for a free 15-minute consultation. And from there, we can just talk about your situation and get you on the right path. Thanks, guys. Be well.